Hi, guys, this is Professor Fernandez, and I am here to talk about this incredible short story by Edgar Allan Poe. But I brought along some friends, but I'm going to have them introduce themselves. Will our special guests please introduce themselves?
Who's gonna go first? I guess I started talking.
Yeah, I guess you'll go first.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jenny McFarland, and I live in Michigan now, but I lived in Houston for like 8 years. I went to University of Houston, and I'm also the author of The House of Deep Water, out now from G.P. Putnam's Sons. And yeah, that's about it. That's me.
Our next guy.
I am Hugo Rodriguez. I am a teacher in Cypress, Texas. I teach high school English for newcomers, and I am the author of And Other Stories, a collection of short stories. I got my undergraduate degree at UTB-TSC, now at UTRGV, and my MFA at UT El Paso. And I'm excited to talk about literature with you guys. With you all.
So check this out. I brought two writers to the fold. So we're going to talk about this really cool story. So The Masque of Red Death, of which I always mess up the title. I always say The Red Mask of Death, but it's The Masque of Red Death because the death is red and not the mask, which I think says more about me than the actual story. How'd you guys like the story? I know you guys both are like big Poe fans.
Yeah, I loved it. It was wild, and it was debauchery page after page, and I'm here for that. But also, yeah, I was a very angsty teenager, and so like any like macabre stories you can give me, give them to me. This was excellent.
I like the relative, how relatable it is. Mainly because I'm new to Poe, relatively new. Like I've only been reading Poe for about a year or so, 2 years. It was one of those moments where I'm like, man, I had nothing planned out, and I just sought out Poe and read The Mask of the Red Death. I thought it was great because there's so many elements of that I've seen in zombie movies, where the rich people get isolated, and then something happens, something lets out. I know Max Brooks did it. Max Brooks, yeah, Max Brooks did it in World War Z, the book. And now with the pandemic, like there's a lot of scary parallels. And that to me, it may have been written 150 plus years ago, but there's so much of it that you see reflected in society now.
Right. So let's talk about, I guess, the creepiness of what we saw as folks who are living through the current pandemic. I don't think we can have a conversation about the story without kind of drawing the parallels. So what were your reaction when you guys read the story and looked at it through the eyes of like, oh wow, pandemic to pandemic? Like was there any visceral reactions or any big thoughts about it?
One thing that I noticed right away was there's definitely parallels between like what was happening in the story and what's happening now, with like basically like if you're rich enough, you can just hole up in your house and avoid the pandemic as much as possible, and like have Amazon deliver everything. And like these people were just like, not only that, but like, let's go have a big party, which is also something I remember. Like when things get scary, I remember like in Houston, I was there for Hurricane Ike, not Harvey, but I remember like my friends were having a hurricane party. Like, I mean, let's just forget our woes. And no, man, like I was like, we got to stay awake, we got to be alert, like we got to see what's going on, we got to make sure we're not going to die. Like it was but I'm also from Michigan, I'm not used to hurricanes, right? But it was a very different experience. Like I don't know, like I would have been the people outside of the castle in the story, who were just like dead in half an hour. So I liked that parallel a lot.
I was reminded when maybe you want to say like about 10 years ago, because I believe I was still in high school, I read The Stand, and that was right at the height of the swine flu epidemic that everyone freaked out about, and then we had maybe like nothing happened. And so, but I remember feeling like, raiding the stand, and then swine flu is happening, and then now with the Mask of the Red Death, same thing. Like I'm seeing it, and I'm just looking at the parallels, like just like the way I look at history. And I told because I do in-class support for history, I tell them history repeats itself, and so does literature. Is so influenced by what society sees, that like you can't escape that influence. Like, yeah, we can talk about the author's head and all that, but are they really, like, are they that separate from their work? But also, like, with Harvey, same thing. Now, my ex-wife is from the Midwest, so she had the Midwestern reaction to, oh my God, what's gonna happen? I had this is hurricane, this is Houston, this thing's happened. But it's something that I see reflected also in the characters in the story, where like, man, it's out there, it's whatever, like it's not gonna happen to us. And the parallels are there with what we've seen these last 2 years, with people being like, it's there.
Yeah. And then because of that, it's still here.
Like there's lots of debates here about the rooms and the colors and what the colors in the rooms signify, if anything. So let me see if I can go to the story here, because I want to make sure I get these colors right, because that's a big deal. There were 7 of them, an imperial suite. In many palaces, however, such suites form a long and straight vista, while the folding doors slide back nearly to the walls to the other end, so that the view of the whole extent is scarcely impeded. Here, the case was very different, as might have been expected from the Duke's love of the bizarre. The apartments were so irregularly disposed that the vision embraced but little more than one at a time. So we have this long corridor of just 7 rooms. We have one that is in blue, all blue, including the windows. We have one that is purple, and its ornaments and tapestries and the panes were purple. The third was green throughout all of it. The fourth was furnished and lit with orange. The fifth with white. The sixth with violet. There's literally 2 purple rooms. I'm just realizing that.
Right.
The sixth was violet. And the 7th apartment was closely shrouded in black velvet tapestries that hung all over the ceiling and down the walls, falling in heavy folds upon a carpet of the same material and hue. Okay. We're going to go back to like Prince Prospero in a minute and talk about the symbolism. Well, not symbolism, with the meaning of his name. But these rooms are creepy, man. What do you think about these rooms?
I didn't think too much except about the black one with the red window. And I read that and I was like, oh, that's where it's going down. Like you could just tell, like that's where it's all gonna happen. Like that room is super creepy. I wasn't terribly creeped out by the colorful rooms though, because they seemed normal to me. Like to have that much like monotone is kind of weird, or monochromatic is weird, but like I don't know. I didn't think too much until I got to that black room, and I was like, oh yeah,
black room with the scarlet panes, deep blood color.
Foreshadowing.
How about them apples, right? Foreshadowing is real in here. What'd you think, Google?
It's very this is where like Poe shines in his use of imagery, like how vivid these colors are, all the descriptions. And I tell my students like that helps tell a story, and there's a reason why that's this author's craft. Like there's a reason why he uses those terms. When I first read it, and I'm more recent to it. When I first read it, I was like, these are rooms or whatever. But then you start thinking about like what do those colors mean? We have the purple of royalty, we have the green of spring, we have the white of maybe new life, and then black of death. Or you can even like spin it where like maybe like black's not necessarily an end but a renewal, or is so because you can hear because if I recall correctly, they're saying the bells are chiming as he's running through the rooms.
Right.
So it's just like you get the oral and you get the visual in his descriptions of the rooms.
Right. I like what you said about the audio and the visual descriptions and how they almost kind of, you know, all three of us being writers, right? You always want to make the reader feel something,
Right.
something like feel something, so we know that you're alive, right? And so, how do you? I mean, there's a couple ways of doing that, but I think here it's that audio and that visual that's giving you that creepy feeling, like what Jen was talking about. Oh, this is the room it's going to go down, like this right here, like. Poe just literally stuck like a big stake and said with a sign that says it's going down here after the clock strikes midnight, watch it. Right. And so I think that's really, oh gosh, it's just like it just adds to the creepiness of it. The colors kind of wigged me out because it's just like the monochromatic of it. It's just like, who has a whole green room? But I guess if you have money.
And yeah, I mean that's the connection. Like what kind of person? Well, the kind of person who's gonna have a party in the middle of a plague is also the kind of person who's got the money to burn and in these cases creating the rooms. Like I mean, what's that lady's name? The Winchester Mansion. Like just rooms leading to rooms and within rooms, stairways to nothing, just because like she kept being chased by these specters that you could attribute to her husband and the repeating rifles, all the people he killed. But have money, will build weird rooms, which I don't blame, because I'm probably the kind of person that would totally do the same thing. Like I would build a house if I ever made a big enough house. Not that I would. I'm a small house kind of guy. But if I had the screw you money, I would probably build houses for other people and then just add that like weird colors.
But you have this like these 7 rooms and they're all kind of aligned, right? With this window that's shut. And then and then on top of all this is a costume party.
I mean, it's weird. I mean, it's just weird to begin with.
They want like maximum distraction, right? Like stuff is horrible outside and they want to forget it. And like they get all the booze, they get all the food, they get I wanted to ask y'all, there's a line in here, they're telling you that everything that's there were buffoons, there were improvisatori, there were ballet dancers, musicians, there was beauty with a capital B, which I swear is prostitutes, but what do y'all think?
So tell me where it is. What
it's on the, so I don't have the version that you gave me at the book, but like it's on the first page. So it's it's at the bottom of the second paragraph.
There were buffoons, there were improvisatori, which I'm guessing actors. There were ballet dancers, there were musicians, there were cards, there was capital B beauty, there was wine. All these insecurity were within. Outside was the Red Death.
Oh, okay.
I had not noticed that. But
I mean, I know like once upon a time people would randomly capitalize or seemingly randomly capitalize words to give it more importance. Mm-hmm. So maybe that's what they were doing, but also like maybe it's like like a little nudge, like hey. I swear. But why wouldn't you? If you're a rich prince, why wouldn't you have prostitutes for your end of the world party?
Right.
I mean, it falls into the whole like living to your fullest, like right before it happens.
Yeah.
I mean, how many people did we see just like, and I'm talking like peak pandemic, like going out and about and having these events, like just like at some point you adopt and I can't blame them, but like I also have like an understanding, like you get holed up, especially if you're like an extroverted person. Suddenly spring break happens and suddenly you're told, no, you can't go out anymore. And you just want to be like, at what point, like what, where's the limit? So, sex and prostitutes, screw it, go nuts, drink.
Why not? I call them. They're called. I have them as courtiers. The courtiers, having entered, brought furnaces and massy hammers, and wielded the bolts. Mm,
Mm.
that's the that we all know what that means. Dude, can we talk about Prince Prospero?
Yeah.
What do you think about this dude?
Arrogant.
Mm,
Arrogant AF.
Hubris. The
Yeah.
embodiment of hubris.
Yeah. To think like you can just throw money at it and then you won't die. Just like get all my buddies together. Here's all my money. I'm gonna throw you a great party. We're gonna be safe. Nah. Serious arrogance.
It's
yeah.
tempting the gods. Like it's got that element of the Greek tragedy. Like say do something to offend the gods or challenge the gods to a fight, and you're gonna come out losing. You tempt fate with doing that, and you saw the parallels. You saw you see the parallels every hurricane season in Houston. You were like, it's fine. I'm gonna be out windsurfing in Galveston Bay,
Right.
or I'm gonna show up in a Mike Myers outfit and just walk around while everyone's on hurricane watch.
Yo.
Do
Yes.
people really windsurf before
Windsurfing,
hurricane?
yes, and Mike Myers
And-
mask, yes. I actually know who the guy is. He's a big time lawyer in Galveston, so he was able to pay the fine. But again, that idea that it feels like I want to say it's a Texas thing, but it's also just like a pride thing where I'm like, nah, that's not gonna happen to me.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you think that looking at kind of like disasters in the real world, pandemic in the real world versus what's in this literature, do you think that maybe there is some hubris here, right? He thinks because he's a prince, he can and has some money, he can do some things. But is there maybe a little bit of that whole idea of it's the end of the world and I'm going out the way I want to go out kind of situation?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, what makes you say that?
Well, honestly, like the way like I think he recognizes and there's an element of like he knows this is all going on. Everyone there at the party knows this is all going out. So like they make the choice of determining like why say hold up? Why not just go out? And I saw that in Houston. I saw it like from my friends posting all over like why should I just die here? I mean, I don't think anyone outright said that, but like that was a belief I saw and I see it here in the story where like people just go, this is where we're gonna stake your claim, and there's no defense because it's not like they're building a fortress. This is just like we're throwing a party, we're away. We a little part of them is like has that screw it mentality.
Yeah.
Do you guys both read it as like they thought they were gonna actually make it through? Because I was on the fence about that. Like, did they really think, or sorry, they thought they knew where they were gonna die? Because I felt like they thought they were gonna make it through.
No, I see. I'm also I'm on that camp too. I know like not that I was at the party. It's a fake party, but I can assume like especially
I wasn't even invited to the party.
Yeah.
Let's just put
No,
that
me
out
neither.
there.
There's an element of that of like within that larger crowd, an element of like, well, this is how it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think Prospero himself was truly expecting. I think he treated the whole thing as a joke, or maybe like a joke got too far when he first saw the appearance of the Red Death.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I
can
read
see
it
that.
the same way you guys read it. I read it when I first read it. I was just like, oh, they're they think they're gonna make it out, and if they just like stayed up closed doored in this palace long enough, like they'll be the last ones. Like it's just the Noah's Ark of pandemic, right?
Yeah.
But looking at this, like looking at this again, and I've taught this for a couple semesters. I think this is the first semester where I'm looking at it as in, did he think he was just not going to make it instead, and this is why he's decided to do this, because this is like month 5 or 6 of seclusion. He couldn't have thought that, like, because at that point, you're either think, okay, we're going to make it, or we have a chance at least, versus we're probably going to die, so bring in the strippers. Like, like, I don't know why I think that. I kind of feel like sometimes when you like look at something and you just adjust the lens just a little, like 10%, like everything changes, right? And you kind of see if like what's on the page fits in that new lens. So I was just asking my friends. Beauty with a capital B. I particularly like the line that the prince had provided all the appliances of pleasure.
Yeah, appliances of pleasure. Again. I
wink,
swear.
wink. Oh, Edgar, you're so funny.
Can I fangirl for a second about
fangirl?
So when I think I was 12 years old, my great grandmother took us to Chicago to see Phantom of the Opera, and I became obsessed with Phantom of the Opera, and I still am to this day. One of the novels that I sometimes work on is an adaptation. But there's this moment. So for people who don't know the story, Phantom is this dude who has convinced everyone he's a ghost, and he's holding them all hostage. They have to do what he wants in this opera house, or else he will murder people. And he's also like kidnapping Christine Daae. And at one point he like drops a chandelier and kills a bunch of people in the audience. And then he disappears for like 6 months. And they're like, great, awesome, he's gone, we're free. And they're having a masquerade party and singing about how wonderful everything is. They're free of him. Christine is engaged to her boyfriend. And they're like, we're free. And all of a sudden the music drops and he shows up in the Masque of the Red Death. Is his costume. And I didn't know that was a literary reference when I was a kid, but now I love it even more because I've got this like tie with Poe. But yeah, he shows up and he's basically like, yeah, he actually says like, your chains are still mine, you will sing for me, like I still own you guys, you have to do what I want or I will murder you. So yeah, I was really excited to see that costume and to see the masquerade in this that looked so very much like the stage play. And that costume with the I was super excited about that.
I didn't know there was a reference to that in that play.
Yeah, and jumping off of that fangirl comment, like that's what I try to, and I'm telling the audience and the students right now, like there's an intentionality with what people write, and I know like the long joke of like you see the meme where like, well, what if the curtains were blue? And maybe the author just meant the curtains were effing blue. But the reason why we study the books we study, the short stories we study, it doesn't matter which author, is because those stories have a meaning. Like Dickens was influenced by such and such, like so many other things. Dumas, all these authors, all these, the literary canon, like it's not, the curtains were not just blue. And the allusion to in the Phantom of the Opera, like that was Lloyd Webber, right?
Yeah.
So Lloyd Webber is taking these influences and making them happen, and some people have that thing. So whenever they see that pop up somewhere else, in another form of media, they're like, wait, I've seen that scene somewhere, and that vague familiarity is just it's what makes this whole thing, this analysis, actually fun.
Right. That's like, and talking to the audience, students, he's literally talking about the conversations that pieces have with each other, right? This is exactly what I'm talking about. How like Andrew Lloyd Webber had a conversation with Poe in this way, like this illusion that he's having, this tie that it's having. How Dickens, we don't read Dickens in this class, but Dickens has conversations actually a lot with his contemporaries, like how Poe has many rude conversations with the people who hated him. Oh, people hated him. He was so well hated.
I could see that.
And I think he kind of fed off of that, frankly. he fed off of that. Oh, bless his heart. And so like when we talk about context and we're talking about the conversations that literature has with not only history and the world around it, but with the contemporaries, with kind of things that maybe inspired the pieces, this is what he's talking about. See how it all comes back. Haha, rhetorical situation is awesome.